The arrival. It started on an ordinary evening. People were going about their usual routines, watching TV, scrolling through their phones, or preparing dinner. Suddenly, every screen on Earth went blank. Televisions, smartphones, computers, all turned black. Then, without warning, a bright, shimmering image appeared on every device. The face on the screen was alien. Its features were sharp and angular, with skin that shimmered like liquid metal. Its eyes glowed a piercing blue, scanning the audience as if it could see each and every human watching. A voice followed, cold and mocking, yet perfectly clear in every language spoken on Earth. "Humans," it began, drawing out the word as if it left a bitter taste. "We are the Zorith, rulers of the stars and masters of 1,000 worlds. For centuries, we have watched your pitiful attempts at space exploration, your primitive rockets, your laughable satellites. You are like children playing with stones while we wield the power of the universe." The alien paused, letting its words sink in. Around the world, people gathered in confusion and fear. Families huddled together. Leaders frantically called emergency meetings, and news anchors sat frozen, unsure what to say. The Zorith's voice continued, its tone dripping with disdain. "You are an anomaly, a mistake in the vastness of the cosmos, and yet we have decided to spare you. For now, surrender your planet and your resources to us within 30 of your Earth days, and we may allow some of you to live as our servants. Refuse, and we will wipe your species from existence." The screen flickered, and suddenly, the image zoomed out. Behind the alien, an enormous fleet of ships loomed in the void of space. Each ship was massive, their jagged designs bristling with weapons. The Earth's people could only watch in silence as the alien smiled coldly. "You have 30 days," it repeated. "Choose wisely." Then, just as suddenly as it began, the broadcast ended. The screens returned to normal, but the world would never be the same. In the United Nations building, chaos erupted. Leaders from every nation shouted over one another, debating what to do. Some argued for surrender. "We don't stand a chance," one delegate cried. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Others were defiant. "We cannot bow to these invaders," a general from a powerful nation declared. "We must fight, no matter the cost." Amid the chaos, a calm voice broke through. Dr. Elena Ramirez, a scientist and the head of a top-secret global initiative, stood up. "There is something you all need to know," she said. Her tone was steady, but her eyes betrayed the weight of her words. In a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the world's best scientists and engineers gathered around a massive, dark structure. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built. Sleek and menacing, the object pulsed faintly with an otherworldly energy. This was the Erebus, Earth's secret weapon. Decades ago, a strange object had crashed on Earth, an alien ship. Though most of the world never knew, its technology had been quietly studied and reverse-engineered. What had seemed like science fiction became reality. Advanced propulsion systems, energy shields, and weapons powered by unknown elements were developed in complete secrecy. Project Genesis, Dr. Ramirez explained to the global leaders via a secure transmission, was created for this very moment. The Erebus is humanity's answer to the stars. It's not just a ship, it's a statement. We won't go down without a fight. The room went silent. Even the most skeptical among them couldn't deny the significance of what they were seeing. Yet doubts lingered. "Are you saying this ship can defeat an entire fleet?" a skeptical politician asked. Dr. Ramirez didn't flinch. The Erebus was designed to face threats beyond anything humanity has ever known. But it's untested. We've never had a chance to use it. Until now. Around the world, news of the alien ultimatum spread like wildfire. Protests erupted in major cities. Some people called for peace, urging leaders to surrender and save as many lives as possible. Others demanded action, insisting that humanity stand its ground. Social media buzzed with debates, memes, and theories about the mysterious fleet. Meanwhile, in the hidden facility, the Erebus began to come alive. Engineers and technicians worked around the clock, running diagnostics, fine-tuning systems, and preparing the ship for launch. Its captain, Morgan Steele, stood on the bridge, watching as the crew assembled. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Steele reminded them. "We're fighting for every man, woman, and child on this planet. If the Zorath think they can mock humanity and get away with it, they're about to learn what we're really made of." As the countdown to the aliens' ultimatum ticked away, humanity stood on the brink of its greatest challenge. The world watched in fear and hope as the Erebus prepared to launch. The question on everyone's mind was the same. Could this mysterious ship really save Earth? Or were the Zorath right to mock humanity as a cosmic joke? The stage was set. The clock was ticking. The fight for survival was about to begin. Secrets of the Mothership. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, where sunlight hadn't touched the Earth in decades, the Erebus lay dormant. Its black metal hull absorbed light, making it seem more like a shadow than a ship. Around it, the air hummed faintly, a low vibration that sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned scientists. To the untrained eye, the Erebus looked like something out of nightmares. To those who knew its secrets, it was hope incarnate. Captain Morgan Steele walked the length of the ship's main hangar, his boots echoing against the polished floor. Around him, a swarm of engineers moved with purpose, their voices blending into a constant hum of activity. Steele's sharp eyes scanned every detail. He wasn't just a captain. He was the human face of Earth's last stand. Behind him, Dr. Elena Ramirez caught up, holding a tablet loaded with schematics. Her usually composed face was tense, the weight of years of secrecy finally pressing down. "How soon can she be ready?" Steele asked, his voice calm but firm. Dr. Ramirez hesitated. "We're close, but the power cord is still unstable. We've never fully activated it. If it fails—" "It won't fail," Steele interrupted. His confidence wasn't arrogance, it was necessity. "What's the worst-case scenario?" Ramirez sighed, rubbing her temples. "The core overloads, the ship disintegrates, and we all become a warning story for future generations. If there are any future generations." The truth about the Erebus was something few outside Project Genesis knew. Decades ago, when the alien ship crashed in the Nevada desert, humanity's greatest minds had been summoned to study it. What they found defied explanation. A ship powered by a crystalline energy source that seemed limitless. But it wasn't just the energy that amazed them. The alien ship had been alive. Its systems weren't controlled by traditional circuits or wires, but by a bioorganic neural network. The Erebus was modeled after this discovery. It wasn't just a machine. It was a hybrid, part human engineering and part alien biology. The ship didn't have a control panel in the traditional sense. It had an interface designed to merge with its captain's mind. "Are you ready for the neural link?" Ramirez asked Steele as they entered the command bridge. The room was dimly lit, dominated by a single chair at its center. The chair wasn't made of leather or steel, but a strange, semi-organic material that pulsed faintly with light. Steele nodded, stepping toward the chair. "I've been ready for this since the day I signed up." As Steele seated himself, the room fell silent. Electrodes extended from the chair, attaching themselves to his temples and the back of his neck. Steele closed his eyes, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, a surge of energy shot through him. His body stiffened, his breath caught, and his mind was flooded with visions. He saw stars, millions of them, rushing past him as if he were flying faster than light. He felt the hum of the Erebus' power core, a deep, steady rhythm that beat like a second heart. And then he heard a voice. It wasn't human, but it wasn't entirely alien either. It was calm, deliberate, and genderless. "Captain Steele," it said, "I am the Erebus. Are you prepared to carry the weight of humanity's survival?" Steele didn't flinch. "Yes." The voice continued. You are strong, but strength alone will not be enough. I can guide you, but the choices will be yours. Together, we may stand a chance. But make no mistake, this will not be an easy fight. Steele opened his eyes. The neural link was complete. Around him, the bridge came to life. Holographic displays projected star maps, fleet positions, and weapon systems. The Erebus was no longer just a ship. It was an extension of him. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, the Zorath fleet waited. Their ships floated like predators circling wounded prey, their sleek forms glinting in the sunlight. The Zorath commander, a towering figure named Vorin, watched Earth with disdain from his flagship. Pathetic, Vorin muttered, his voice a deep growl. They think they can resist us. Their little mothership will be nothing more than a flaming wreck by the time we're done. One of his subordinates approached. Commander, our sensors have detected a sudden energy surge from their hidden base. It matches the energy signature of the relic ship. Vorin's lips curled into a cruel smile. Good. Let them bring it. The galaxy needs a reminder of what happens when primitive species dare to defy us. Back on Earth, the Erebus prepared for its first test flight. As its engines roared to life, the ground beneath the facility trembled. Massive hangar doors slid open, revealing a sky full of stars. The Erebus lifted off, its sleek black hull cutting through the atmosphere like a knife. Inside the ship, Steele felt every movement as if it were his own body. The neural link amplified his senses. He could feel the ship's engines pulsing, the shields shimmering like an invisible cocoon, and the faint hum of its weapon systems ready to fire. Let's see if the Zorath are still laughing when we're done, Steele muttered. As the Erebus breached the atmosphere, the Zorath fleet detected its approach. Alarms blared across their ships, and Vorin's smug confidence flickered for the first time. The Erebus didn't just look threatening, it felt alive, a predator that had finally awakened. The first battle was about to begin, and for the first time, the Zorath would learn what it meant to underestimate humanity. The first encounter. The Erebus glided through space, a silent shadow against the backdrop of stars. Inside the command bridge, Captain Steele sat in the neural interface chair, his senses intertwined with the ship's systems. He could feel the hum of its energy core, the readiness of its weapons, and the faint electric buzz of its shields. It wasn't just a ship, it was an extension of him. Ahead, the Zorath scout fleet waited. 3 sleek vessels hovered in formation, their jagged exteriors bristling with weaponry. They were smaller than the massive ships seen in the alien broadcast, but their presence was enough to remind Steele that this was no ordinary encounter. Captain, came Dr. Ramirez's voice through the comm system. This is a test. We need to know what the Erebus is capable of, but don't get cocky. We can't afford to lose this ship before the real fight. Steele smirked, his hands resting lightly on the armrests of the chair. Cocky? Me? Never. On the Zorath lead scout ship, Commander Trellis watched the Erebus approach. The Zorath had been monitoring Earth's activities for decades, and they found humans amusing in their stubbornness. But this ship, the Erebus, was something new. Commander, an officer said, the human vessel is closing fast. Its energy readings are unusual. Trellis leaned forward, his metallic fingers tapping rhythmically against the armrest of his command chair. Unusual? How? It's unlike anything we've seen from their species. It matches some of the energy signatures from the old relics. Trellis's lips twisted into a snarl. So they've been meddling with things they don't understand. No matter. Prepare to destroy them. The Erebus reached striking distance. Steele's voice was steady as he gave the order. Activate shields. Ready the rail cannons. The neural link transmitted his thoughts into action, and the ship's systems responded instantly. A shimmering blue energy field enveloped the Erebus, and the rail cannons along its sides extended, locking onto the nearest Zorath scout ship. The Zorath fleet opened fire first. Bright, pulsating beams of energy shot toward the Erebus. But the shields held firm. Steele could feel the impact reverberate through the ship, like the distant rumble of thunder. "Is that all you've got?" Steele muttered. "Erebus, return fire." The rail cannons roared to life, releasing projectiles at near-light speed. The first shot tore through the Zoreth scout ship's shields like paper, leaving a gaping hole in its hull. The second shot hit the engine, causing the ship to erupt in a fiery explosion. On the remaining two Zoreth ships, chaos erupted. "Commander Trellis, the human vessel has destroyed the Vekar in 2 shots." An officer shouted. Trellis's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Their technology shouldn't. He stopped himself, staring at the display. This wasn't human technology. It was something else, something far more advanced. "Focus fire on their engines," Trellis ordered. "We'll disable them and take the ship intact." The 2 remaining Zoreth ships adjusted their tactics, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm the Erebus's shields. Steele felt the ship shudder under the assault. The shields held, but cracks began to appear in their energy signature. "Captain," Ramirez's voice cut through the tension, "the shields can't take much more of this. You need to end this fight now." Steele gritted his teeth. "Erebus, deploy the swarm drones." From hidden compartments along the Erebus's hull, dozens of small, sleek drones shot out into space. Each one was equipped with energy blasters and self-repairing mechanisms, designed to harass and confuse enemy ships. The drones swarmed the nearest Zoreth ship, targeting its weapons systems and engines. The alien crew fired wildly, trying to hit the nimble machines, but the drones were too fast. Within minutes, the ship was disabled, its weapons silenced, and its engines sputtering. The last Zoreth ship attempted to retreat, its commander realizing they were outmatched. But Steele wasn't about to let them escape. "Target their engines," Steele commanded. The Erebus fired a precise shot, disabling the fleeing ship. It drifted helplessly, its crew stranded. Inside the Erebus, the crew erupted into cheers. It was humanity's first victory against the Zoreth, and it felt monumental. Steele, however, remained focused. He knew this was just the beginning. "Erebus, open a channel to the Zoreth flagship," Steele said. The holographic display shifted, and the face of Commander Trellis appeared. He was seething, his metallic skin glinting in the light of his burning ship. "You've made a grave mistake, human," Trellis spat. "You may have won this skirmish, but the full might of the Zoreth fleet will crush you." Steele leaned forward, his expression cold. "Tell your fleet to bring their best. We'll be waiting." As the Erebus returned to Earth's orbit, the crew began analyzing the battle data. The ship had performed beyond expectations, but there were still questions. Why had the Zoreth reacted so strongly to the Erebus? What did they mean by the old relics? Steele stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. He knew the Zoreth would come back, and next time, it wouldn't be 3 scout ships, it would be the entire fleet. But for now, humanity had sent a message of its own. Earth was no longer a cosmic joke. It was a force to be reckoned with. Uneasy alliances. The Erebus hovered silently in low Earth orbit, its dark hull reflecting the faint glow of the planet below. The victory against the Zoreth scout fleet had electrified Earth's population. News of the encounter spread across the globe, uniting nations in a rare moment of solidarity. For the first time in history, humanity had struck back against a galactic oppressor, and won. But Captain Steele wasn't celebrating. In the command bridge, a tense meeting was underway. A holographic display projected a message intercepted from deep space. It was a desperate plea for help, written in a language the Erebus's advanced systems had quickly translated. "We are the Kirith," the message began. "We once stood where you stand now. The Zoreth came to our world, mocked our people, and left us in ruins. Now we fight to survive. If you can hear this, Earth, we beg you, do not stand alone. Together, we may yet defeat them." Dr. Ramirez folded her arms, pacing the bridge. "We don't know if this is real," she said. "It could be a trap. The Zoreth aren't above using deception. Steele leaned back in the neural interface chair, his fingers tapping on the armrest. Or it could be exactly what it says, a cry for help. If there are others out there fighting the Zorith, we can't ignore them. Commander Tarek, the ship's tactical officer, frowned. Even if it's genuine, Captain, we're stretched thin. The Erebus is powerful, but we don't have a fleet. Can we really afford to risk our only ship? Steele sighed, rubbing his temples. The Zorith fleet isn't just going to wait for us to prepare. If we can rally others to our cause, we'll have a fighting chance. But if we turn our back on potential allies, we're already defeated. The room fell silent. Finally, Dr. Ramirez nodded. Fine, but we proceed with caution. No unnecessary risks. The Erebus set course for the source of the signal, a planet called Virath 7, located on the edge of Zorith-controlled space. The journey took 3 days. During that time, the crew prepared for every possible scenario. First contact protocols, battle drills, and contingency plans. When they arrived, Virath 7 was a haunting sight. The planet's surface was scarred with massive craters, evidence of past orbital bombardments. Cities lay in ruins, their skeletal remains jutting out of the ground like broken teeth. But there was life. The Erebus's sensors detected faint energy signatures from underground. Captain, we're picking up transmissions, said Lieutenant Harper, the communications officer. It's the Kireth. They're asking for our credentials. Steele nodded. Patch them through. A holographic figure appeared on the bridge, a tall alien with slender features and pale, translucent skin. Its eyes, large and shimmering like molten silver, studied Steele with suspicion. I am General Lyriat of the Kirith Resistance, the figure said. Who are you, and why have you come to Virath 7? Steele stood, his posture firm but respectful. I'm Captain Morgan Steele of the Erebus. We received your distress signal. Earth has also been targeted by the Zorith, and we've already engaged them in battle. We came to see if your message was genuine. Lyriat's expression softened slightly. You fought the Zorith, and survived. Few can make such a claim. But why would you risk coming here? The Zorith patrol these sectors relentlessly. Because we know we can't fight them alone. Steele replied. If there are others willing to resist, we want to stand with them. Lyriat hesitated, then gave a solemn nod. Follow me. I will show you what remains of my people. The Erebus descended into Virath 7's atmosphere, escorted by a squadron of Kirith fighters. The underground city was a marvel of ingenuity. Vast caverns housed thousands of Kirith, their technology blending seamlessly with the natural rock formations. Despite the devastation above, the city thrived below, illuminated by bioluminescent plants and glowing energy conduits. As Steele and his team disembarked, they were greeted by General Lyriat and a group of Kirith soldiers. The tension in the air was palpable. The Kirith were clearly wary of their human visitors, but there was also a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Your ship, Lyriat said, gesturing toward the Erebus. It carries the energy of the old relics. How did you come by such technology? Steele exchanged a glance with Dr. Ramirez. It's a long story, but let's just say we've had our own encounters with the Zorith in the past. We used what we learned to build a weapon capable of fighting back. Lyriat's eyes widened. Then you understand. The relics are the key to defeating them. The Zorith fear them because they cannot control them. Steele frowned. What do you mean? The relics, Lyriat explained, are remnants of an ancient civilization that once dominated this galaxy. The Zorith destroyed them, but their technology lives on. It is the one thing they cannot replicate or fully understand. Your ship is proof of that. As the discussion continued, alarms suddenly blared throughout the Kirith city. Lyriat's communicator buzzed with an urgent message. General, Zorith patrol fleet approaching the planet. Steele's jaw tightened. How many ships? 4 frigates and a battleship, Lyriat replied grimly. They found us. Steele turned to his crew. Get back to the Erebus. We're not letting them wipe out the Kirith. Lyriat hesitated. Captain Steele, this is not your fight. You owe us nothing. Steele placed a hand on the alien's shoulder. If we let them destroy you, we're no better than they are. This is what alliances are for. Let's show the Zoreth they're not as invincible as they think. As the Erebus powered up and rose to meet the incoming Zoreth fleet, Steele felt the neural link surge with anticipation. The fight for Virath 7 would be more than a battle. It would be a message to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't standing alone anymore. The trap. The Erebus surged into the upper atmosphere of Virath 7, its black hull shimmering as energy shields snapped into place. Below, the Kirith resistance scrambled their few remaining fighters, joining Earth's lone mothership in a desperate bid to defend their hidden city. The Zoreth patrol fleet, 5 gleaming ships, hung in low orbit, their weapons trained on the surface. Captain Steele sat in the neural interface chair, his senses fused with the Erebus. Every hum of the ship's power core, every flicker of its shields, every targeting reticle overlaid on the Zoreth vessels, he felt it all. Status report, Steele commanded, his voice calm despite the tension. Lieutenant Harper's voice crackled through the comm. 5 enemy ships confirmed, 4 frigates, 1 battleship. They've deployed drones, likely to target the city. Steele nodded. They'll try to divide our attention. Let's show them that was a mistake. Target their drones first. The Erebus unleashed a barrage of precision fire, energy bolts streaking across the void. The first wave of Zoreth drones exploded in a brilliant cascade, their mechanical remains scattering into the planet's atmosphere. The Kirith fighters darted between the larger enemy ships, drawing their fire and buying time. On the Zoreth battleship, Commander Trellis watched the scene unfold with growing irritation. The humans are more resourceful than I anticipated, he muttered, his metallic fingers tightening on the armrest of his command chair. But no matter. Their arrogance will be their undoing. A Zoreth officer approached. Commander, the decoy has been activated. The human ship is walking into the trap. Trellis smiled cruelly. Good. Let them think they've won. As the Erebus engaged the enemy fleet, its advanced sensors picked up an unusual signal. Dr. Ramirez, monitoring from the science station, frowned. Captain, there's an energy surge coming from the far side of the planet. It doesn't match the Zoreth's known signatures. Steele's eyes narrowed. What kind of surge? Unknown, Ramirez replied. But it's massive. If I had to guess, it's a hidden weapon or reinforcement fleet. Steele's instincts prickled. Something felt wrong. Harper, triangulate that signal. I want eyes on it. A holographic display shifted, showing a Zoreth dreadnought, a ship 10 times the size of the Erebus. Emerging from the planet's shadow, its weapons gleamed ominously, and smaller ships poured from its hangar bays like hornets from a nest. It's a trap, Steele said grimly. They've been waiting for us. The Zoreth dreadnought opened fire, unleashing a beam of searing energy aimed directly at the Erebus. Steele reacted instantly, pulling the ship into a sharp, evasive maneuver. The energy beam grazed the shields, causing them to ripple and dim. Shields at 60%. Ramirez shouted. We can't take another hit like that. Then we won't, Steele replied. Tariq, deploy decoys and scramble their targeting systems. Harper, prepare for a warp jump. We need to buy time. The Erebus launched a series of holographic decoys, each one mimicking the ship's energy signature. The Zoreth ships hesitated, their targeting systems struggling to distinguish the real Erebus from the fakes. Steele seized the moment. Erebus, initiate pulse drive. Set course for Virath 7's northern hemisphere. The ship vanished in a flash of light, reappearing moments later on the other side of the planet. From this vantage point, the Erebus had a clear view of the Zoreth dreadnought's vulnerable rear engines. Steele didn't hesitate. Target their engines. Fire everything we've got. The Erebus unleashed a devastating salvo, its rail cannons and energy turrets converging on the dreadnought's propulsion systems. The impact was catastrophic. Explosions rippled across the ship's rear, and it began to list to one side, its power flickering. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining Zoreth ships regrouped, their weapons trained on the Erebus. The dreadnought, though damaged, still posed a significant threat. On the ground, the Kirith city was under heavy bombardment, its defenses faltering. Steele clenched his fists. "We're outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of options." Dr. Ramirez's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, I've been analyzing the dreadnought's energy signature. There's a weak point in its core. If we can hit it with a high-energy burst, we might be able to disable it completely." Steele's eyes lit up. "Ramirez, you're a genius. Tariq, prep the plasma lance. Harper, get me a firing solution." The Erebus turned sharply, its plasma lance charging with a blinding blue glow. Steele aimed carefully, aligning the ship's systems with the dreadnought's exposed core. "Fire," he commanded. The plasma lance discharged in a brilliant beam of energy, piercing through the dreadnought's core. The ship erupted in a massive explosion, fragments scattering in all directions. The remaining Zoreth ships hesitated, their confidence shaken. On the Zoreth command ship, Trellis watched in stunned silence. His trap had failed. The human ship had not only survived but destroyed his most powerful asset. "Retreat," he growled through clenched teeth. "This isn't over." The Zoreth ships turned and vanished into hyperspace, leaving Virath 7 behind. As the Erebus returned to the planet's surface, the Kirith resistance cheered. For the first time in years, they had hope. Steele, however, knew the fight was far from over. The Zoreth's retreat was only temporary, and their next move would be even more dangerous. General Lyriat approached him, gratitude and determination in her eyes. "Captain Steele, you've done more for us than we ever could have asked. The Kirath owe you a debt we can never repay." Steele shook his head. "No debts, just promises. When the time comes, we'll need your help. The Zoreth won't stop, but together we can make sure they regret ever underestimating us." The Kirith resistance pledged their loyalty, and the Erebus began preparing for the next phase of the battle. The trap had been sprung, but humanity had turned the tables. Now the galaxy knew. Earth wasn't just fighting back, it was winning. Showdown at the homeworld. The Erebus soared through hyperspace, its sleek form cutting through the void as it carried Earth's hopes toward the heart of enemy territory. In the days since their victory at Virath 7, the Kirath had shared crucial intelligence, the location of Zoreth Prime, the enemy's homeworld, and the center of their galactic empire. It was a fortress world, its skies bristling with orbital defenses, and its surface a sprawling metropolis of cold, metallic cities. For centuries, Zoreth Prime had been the symbol of their dominance, the hub from which they controlled 1,000 worlds. And now, humanity was taking the fight to its doorstep. "You think this will stop us?" Trellis hissed. "You are nothing but a spark in the darkness." "Maybe," Steele replied. "But a spark can start a fire." As the explosives detonated, the core shattered, sending a shockwave through the command center. The team sprinted for the exit, narrowly escaping as the structure began to collapse. Above, the planetary defenses flickered and died, leaving Zoreth Prime vulnerable. Back in orbit, the Erebus and the Kirith fleet seized the opportunity. Without the orbital platforms and coordinated fleet maneuvers, the Zoreth ships faltered. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to retreat. The Erebus and the Kirith fleet regrouped in the aftermath. Zoreth Prime's skies, once impenetrable, now lay open. Steele stood on the bridge, watching as the Zoreth ships flowed into hyperspace. "This isn't just a victory," he said. "It's a message. The Zoreth aren't invincible, and we're just getting started." Below, the people of Zoreth Prime, long oppressed by their own empire, began to rise. Across the galaxy, whispers of rebellion grew louder. Humanity and its allies had done the impossible. They had struck at the heart of the Zoreth Empire and survived. But Steele knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's triumph. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath in the aftermath of the attack on Zorath Prime. The unthinkable had happened. Humanity, a species once dismissed as insignificant, had not only struck at the heart of the Zorath Empire, but had left it reeling. The destruction of the planetary command center had crippled their ability to coordinate fleets, and the ripple effects were being felt across the galaxy. But Captain Steele knew the fight wasn't over. Zorath Prime was weakened, but it wasn't defeated. The Erebus drifted in orbit above the smoldering surface of Zorath Prime. On the bridge, Steele stood before a holographic display showing the galactic map. Blue dots represented the growing pockets of rebellion, systems inspired by the audacious strike on Zorath Prime. Red dots marked Zorath-controlled territories, still vast but shrinking as chaos spread. "Reports are coming in from across the galaxy," said Lieutenant Harbour. "Rebel factions are rising up. Entire sectors are refusing to send tribute to the Zorath. Their empire is fracturing." Steele nodded, his expression grim. "Fracturing isn't the same as falling. If we give them time to regroup, they'll come back stronger." General Lyriat, standing beside Steele, crossed her arms. "Then we don't give them time. We need to strike their fleet while it's scattered. If we can destroy their dreadnought production facilities, they won't have the ships to retake their territories." Dr. Ramirez interjected, her tone cautious. "Their production facilities are likely heavily defended, and we've already pushed the Erebus to its limits. Another direct assault could be suicide." Steele turned to the holographic map, tracing his finger over a red dot in a remote system. "Then we make this our final move. We end the Zorath threat here and now." The Zorath had one last card to play, a massive fleet assembling near their hidden shipyards in the Gallian system. The intelligence came from defectors emboldened by the fall of Zorath Prime. The shipyards were a critical lifeline for the Empire, churning out the dreadnoughts and frigates that kept the Zorath in power. If those shipyards fell, the Empire would collapse. The Erebus and the Kareth fleet prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Steele addressed his crew and allies, his voice steady but charged with determination. "This is it," he began. "The Zorath mocked us. They called us primitive, unworthy of the stars. But we've shown them what humanity is capable of. Today, we finish what we started. Today, we fight for a galaxy that refuses to bow to tyranny." Cheers erupted from the crew, and Steele felt a surge of pride. They weren't just soldiers. They were symbols of hope. The assault on the Gallian system began under the cover of darkness. The Erebus led the charge, its plasma lance firing the first shot. The Kareth fleet flanked the Zorath defenses, their fighters weaving through the chaos to disable key installations. The Zorath, though disorganized, fought back with desperation. Massive dreadnoughts fired energy beams that sliced through the blackness, while swarms of drones filled the void with deadly precision. "Shields at 45%. Ramirez called out. "We're taking heavy fire." Steele gritted his teeth. "We knew this wouldn't be easy. Target their command ship. Without it, their fleet coordination falls apart." As the Erebus engaged the command ship, Lyriat's forces infiltrated the shipyards. The resistance fighters planted charges on the massive construction platforms, sabotaging the production lines. Explosions lit up the darkness, sending shockwaves that could be felt even aboard the Erebus. On the Zorath command ship, chaos reigned. Officers shouted over one another as their systems failed. Steele seized the moment. "Erebus, deploy the energy disruptor. Let's end this." The Erebus unleashed its secret weapon, a pulse that overloaded the Zorath ship's systems. Shields failed, engines sputtered, and weapons went offline. The Zorath fleet was helpless. In the aftermath of the battle, the Zorath ships that hadn't been destroyed surrendered. The shipyards were reduced to smoldering ruins, and the Gallian system was liberated. The Zorath Empire, once a monolithic force, was broken. Steele stood on the bridge of the Erebus, watching as the last remnants of the Zorath fleet vanished into hyperspace. The Kirath and other rebel factions hailed the Erebus, their gratitude pouring in from across the galaxy. "We did it," Ramirez said, her voice filled with awe. "We actually did it." Steele smiled faintly but didn't let himself relax. "We've won the war, but the real work starts now. The galaxy needs to rebuild, and we need to make sure no empire like the Zoreth ever rises again." Months later, the Erebus returned to Earth, greeted as a hero's ship. The once divided nations of Earth stood united, inspired by the role they had played in reshaping the galaxy. Humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. At a ceremony honoring the crew, Steele stood before a massive crowd. The image of the Erebus hung in the sky above, projected by holographic drones. His voice carried across the plaza and through broadcasts to 1,000 worlds. "We were mocked, underestimated, and dismissed. But humanity has shown that we are more than they ever imagined. We are explorers. We are fighters. We are survivors. And together, with our allies, we have proven that freedom is worth fighting for." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Steele's gaze turned to the stars. Somewhere out there, remnants of the Zoreth Empire still lingered. The fight wasn't over, but humanity was ready. Because now, the galaxy knew one undeniable truth. Earth was no longer a cosmic joke. It was a force to be reckoned with.